President al-Assad tells a visiting Armenian delegation that the Ottomans who committed massacres against the Armenian people are today represented by Erdogan and his government. Syrian army takes full control of a number of strategic areas in the countryside of Hama and Idlib. The Iraqi army continues its operation in Al-Anbar and Salah ad-Din provinces, eliminating dozens of ISIL terrorists. Good afternoon. This is news in English from the Syrian Arab television in Damascus. President Bashar al-Assad received this morning the delegation of the Armenian-Syrian Friendship Association at the National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia. The head of the delegation, Mr. Tashit Varbetnyan, underlined the Armenian people's solidarity with the Syrian people in the unjust war waged against them by the terrorist organizations that have been receiving support from regional states known to all. He expressed confidence that Syria will come out of this war triumphant over terrorism and its supporters. On his part, President al-Assad said the challenges and dangers faced by the Armenian and Syrian people are the same, adding that the Ottomans who committed massacres 100 years ago against the Armenian people are today represented by the Erdogan and his government and are using the same methods, particularly terrorism, against the Syrian people. President al-Assad said parliaments which are elected by their peoples are strongly called upon today to move effectively and push the world community to pursue an efficient policy against terrorism and the obscurant thought, not only for the sake of the Syrian people but for all the peoples of the region and the world. This is because, the President added, terrorism knows no limits and is not restricted to a certain state to the exclusion of others. Emphasis was laid during the meeting on the need to continue the development of relations between the Armenian National Assembly and the Syrian People Assembly, which would contribute to the consolidation of relations between the two friendly peoples and countries. Within the same framework, Prime Minister Dr. Wael Halaqi discussed with the Armenian-Syrian Friendship Association delegation the cooperation relations between the two countries and the agreement signed and ways of activating them, as well as the role of the Syrian-Armenian Business Council in contributing to the implementation of the signed agreements, in addition to ways of boosting Armenian investment in Syria. Al-Halaqi called on the Armenian businessmen and companies to start development projects in Syria and take part in the reconstruction phase. Al-Halaqi said the Syrian people's suffering as a result of the massacres perpetrated against them by the new Ottomans led by slaughterer Erdogan brings to memory the suffering of the Arab and Armenian peoples due to the barbaric massacres committed against them by his ancestors. Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign and Expatriates Minister Walid al-Muallim also met the delegation of the Armenian-Syrian Parliamentary Friendship Association headed by Mr. Varbetnyan. Al-Muallim stressed that terrorism poses a real threat to regional and international security and stability, calling on the world community to exercise pressure on the countries that support terrorism, particularly Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, to put an end to their destructive policies and abide by the United Nations Security Council counter-terrorism resolutions. And in the latest field developments, the Syrian Arab Army has maintained full control over a number of strategic positions and major hills in the northwestern part of Hama Governorate. The army eliminated the last Nusra terrorist gathering in Tel Ghazal and Tel Awar and the villages of Az-Zaydiyah and As-Sarif. In Idlib suburbs, a Syrian Arab Army unit destroyed ISIL hideouts and equipment in the vicinity of the Air Force Academy in the governorate's eastern suburb. In Dar'a countryside, Nusra terrorists were killed and their equipment destroyed in Busra Sham and Al-Harak, as well as Al-Ghariya Road and in Al-Yaduda village. In Dar'a, the operations carried out ended in killing Nusra terrorists and destroying a number of their vehicles near Bilal al-Habashi and south of Al-Sad. The Syrian Arab Army Air Force has meanwhile eliminated a number of ISIL terrorists in two villages in Suwaida countryside. The Syrian Arab Air Force also destroyed ISIL equipment in Hasakeh southern countryside as our armed forces intercepted a terrorist attack in the southern side of the city. The Turkish Cumhuriyet newspaper published an exclusive report and video showing the 3 trucks carrying weapons to terrorists in Syria under the supervision of Turkish intelligence officers.
En dépit des menaces proférées par Erdogan, le quotidien turc Cumhuriyet a publié sur son site électronique un deuxième film montrant les camions qui avaient été interceptés à Adana début 2014, relevant des services de renseignement.
In Iraq, a U.S. drone crashed in a desert area south of Basra as it was heading to Al-Anbar province. Meanwhile, Iraqi troops inflicted heavy losses upon ISIL terrorists in Al-Anbar and Salah ad-Din province. Iraqi sources said that a top wanted ISIL leader was captured in Al-Karmi area in Al-Anbar province. The Iraqi Defense Ministry said that Battalion 16 in the Iraqi army eliminated scores of terrorists in several areas near Al-Anbar and destroyed a number of military vehicles. Saudi airstrikes and artillery shelling in the northern Yemen killed at least 90 civilians and wounded dozens others as residents reported further air raids around the country. Renewed Saudi airstrikes hit targets throughout Yemen despite apparent progress towards peace talks. Overnight, around 12 air raids hit weapons storage around the presidential palace in the capital Sana'a, triggering blasts and explosions. Residents said Saudi shelling had hit the main border crossing from Saudi Arabia, demolishing the customs department on the Yemeni side of the facility in the far northern province of Haraz. Airstrikes also hit a naval base and the office of Yemen's Naval Command in the western Red Sea port city of Hodeidah. 12 people were killed in the city of Sada following a series of airstrikes this morning. Meanwhile, the UN is planning to convene a peace talk between Yemen's warring factions following a Russian proposal to hold a session on the UN Security Council to discuss the possibility of finding a political solution. The Security Council voiced deep concern about the grave situation in Yemen and urged the country's factions to engage as soon as possible in United Nations brokered political consultations. In occupied Palestine, Israeli warplanes launched airstrikes against 3 positions in Khan Yunis in Gaza Strip, causing material damage. Meanwhile, occupation soldiers used sound bombs against Palestinian citizens in Bab al-Amoud, causing suffocation among them. In Ramallah and occupied Jerusalem, occupation authorities conducted a wide-scale arrest campaign during which a number of Palestinians were detained. And with this, we come to the end of our news for today. Thank you for watching. Stay with us, the latest in the world of business and finance, after the break.
Good afternoon. The Syrian Minister of Labor, Khalaf al-Abdullah, submitted a comprehensive offer to Patricia O'Donovan, the head of the training department in the International Labour Organization, concerning the destruction applied to the public and private facilities in Syria by the terrorists. During the meeting between the two sides in Geneva, the minister called on the organization to shed light on the workers' condition in Syria, asking to reactivate the cooperation between the ministry and the organization. For her part, Patricia O'Donovan promised to resume the training and rehabilitation programs provided by the organization to the Syrian workers, indicating that the organization is fully informed of the sabotage inflicted upon labor sector in Syria. The two sides also agreed on arranging a detailed memorandum about these requirements in order to be implemented directly by the International Labour Organization. The Central Bank of Syria set the exchange rate of the US dollar against the Syrian pound at 276.17 as an average price for banks and 276.37 as an average price for exchange companies. The bank also set in its foreign currencies bulletin the price of the dollar for personal transfers at 275 Syrian pounds. On the other hand, the euro exchange rate against the Syrian pound was set at 308.85 as an average price for banks and 309.8 as an average price for exchange companies and 309.87 for personal transfers. Oil prices fell Thursday as a large crude glut overshadowed strong global fuel demand ahead of a meeting on Friday, in which OPEC looks to be unlikely to change its production share. Most Asian stock markets were higher Thursday on hopes that Greece can reach a deal with creditors to save the country from financial disaster and signs that Europe's stimulus program is working. Gold was near its lowest in 3 weeks on Thursday as robust economic data made an increase in U.S. interest rates look more likely and signs emerged of progress in Greek debt crisis. The euro took a breather on Thursday after its biggest two-day gain against the dollar in over 6 years as the European Central Bank played down the impact of bond market volatility and the eurozone returned to inflation. With this, we conclude our economic news for today. Thank you for watching and goodbye.